They said every choice has a consequence. I never imagined mine would come from answering a wrong number. It was an ordinary Thursday. I was walking home from my shift at the cafe, earbuds in, brain half asleep from the scent of burnt espresso and rain. Then my phone buzzed, a voicemail from an unknown number. A man's voice, low, impatient, with the kind of authority that made you want to stand straighter without knowing why. Midnight. Don't be late. And don't wear red. I laughed at first. Probably a prank. I deleted it, I thought I did. 2 hours later, a black van slid up beside the curb like a shark. Doors opened. Hands dragged me inside. When I woke, the world was concrete, cold metal, and the faint hum of a generator. That was the night I met Adrian Voss, the man who would ruin and redefine me. He thought I was a spy. I thought he was a monster. One of us was right. The other fell in love. I thought it was just a wrong number. An irritated man whispering, "Midnight. Don't be late." 2 hours later, a van screeched beside me, and I learned how a single misdial could ruin a life. The voicemail had come through as I left the cafe, rain hitting the street like static. My phone buzzed again. Same number. No text, no explanation. Just silence. I didn't call back. I was broke, tired, and late on rent. Strange men whispering orders weren't my problem, except they became mine. At home, I replayed it once. The man's tone had that edge, power dressed in calm. There was a faint sound behind him, like ice in a glass, and something about it lodged under my skin. I tried to shake it off, made tea, told myself I was being paranoid, but my building's hallway felt too quiet, like the air held its breath. By 11:30, I was pacing. I deleted the voicemail, but I couldn't stop hearing it. Midnight. Don't be late. Somewhere, someone was supposed to show up. Someone who apparently looked or sounded like me. The thunder cracked just as a car door slammed outside. Headlights swept through my window. I peeked through the blinds, black SUV, tinted windows. A man stepped out, tall, wearing a dark coat that looked too expensive for my street. He checked his watch. Looked straight at my window. I ducked. My heart raced. He spoke into his phone. Then another car rolled up behind him. That was my first mistake. Watching instead of running. The second was curiosity. I opened the door, just a crack. Rain hit my bare feet. "Can I help you?" I called stupidly. The man looked up. For a moment, his face softened, almost relieved. Then his hand lifted, 2 fingers. A signal. The world blurred. Boots pounded up the stairs. I tried to slam the door, but it hit something solid. Pain exploded as someone grabbed my wrist, twisted it behind me. "Wait, I don't—" A cloth clamped over my mouth. The scent of chemicals filled my lungs. I remember the last thing I saw before everything went black. A silver ring on the man's gloved hand, carved with a lion's head. When I woke, I was lying on cold cement. My wrists hurt. The air smelled of oil and dust. Somewhere above me, water dripped in slow, mocking rhythm. A voice spoke, soft but sharp. "Who sent you?" I flinched. The same voice from the voicemail. That's when I realized the wrong number wasn't wrong. It had just found the wrong girl. I blinked against the harsh light, trying to make sense of the space I'd been thrown into. Concrete walls, a single swinging bulb, and shadows that seemed to stretch and breathe. My wrists throbbed from the bindings and a metallic taste lingered in my mouth. "Who sent you?" The voice was closer this time. Calm, precise, almost conversational. I don't know what you mean," I stammered, panic sharpening every word. From the corner, a tall man stepped forward. His eyes were impossibly dark, like midnight in the center of a storm. He wore black, nothing flashy, but everything about him screamed control. "She's lying," a rougher voice muttered behind him. I tried to pull my arms free. My struggles only earned me a harsher grip and a glare from the tall man. "You think you can talk your way out?" he said softly, almost amused. "You're not who you think you are, and you will pay for being in the wrong place at the wrong time." The men around him laughed, but it sounded hollow, rehearsed. I was shoved toward a van waiting outside. The rain-slicked street blurred past the windows. I tried to memorize faces, details, anything I could use to identify them later. Please, I begged. You've got the wrong woman. The tall man glanced at me, then back at the driver. We'll see about that, he said, and the van lurched forward. Inside, silence reigned for a few moments. Then the tall man leaned down, his voice cutting through the tension. You made a mistake coming here, and I don't tolerate mistakes, I swallowed hard. There was no reasoning with him. No pleading, just raw, undeniable power. I shivered, realizing fully how small and helpless I was. I tried to memorize his features, sharp cheekbones, cold eyes, but my mind kept drifting to the ring on his gloved hand, the same one from the voicemail. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a name surfaced, Adrian Voss. I had read it in the news, whispered in warnings online. A Mafia boss, untouchable, feared, and now he knew I existed. The van stopped. My heart raced as the doors opened. I was dragged into a building far too elegant to be a warehouse. Polished floors, heavy curtains, chandeliers. Every step screamed wealth, power, and danger. He pushed me into a room and locked the door behind him. I collapsed onto a chair, panting, eyes darting to every corner. There were no weapons visible, but I didn't need to see them to know they were close. He stepped into the room, closing the distance between us slowly, deliberately. You're not Riley, I said, desperate. I don't know that, he replied, his voice a dangerous whisper. But I'll find out. And if you're lying... I swallowed my scream. He let it hang in the air, a threat heavier than any chains. Instead of harming me, he walked to a side table and set down a tray. Bread, fruit, water. My body froze. You'll need your strength, he said, almost kindly. I looked at him, shocked. Why are you being decent? He paused, his gaze lingering on my hands. Because killing someone who's innocent is wasteful. For a brief, terrifying moment, I wondered if he actually believed me. Then he left, the door clicking behind him. And I was alone with fear, confusion, and the first flicker of curiosity about the man who had kidnapped me. The room was too luxurious to be a prison. Silk sheets, polished wood, a chandelier that threw diamonds of light across the walls. But it didn't matter. Locks were locks. My hands were still sore from bindings. Hours passed. The air smelled of dust and faint smoke. I traced my fingers along the bedspread, counting the seconds, counting nothing at all. When the door opened, I flinched. Adrian stepped in. Black shirt, sleeves rolled, eyes like knives tempered with ice. Good. You're awake, he said. You drugged me, I said, voice brittle. You resisted arrest, he replied calmly. Arrest? For what? He didn't answer. He simply studied me, silent and imposing, like a predator evaluating prey. I'm an art restorer, I whispered. Not whoever you think I am. He tilted his head, a shadow of doubt crossing his features. Everyone says they're innocent until they aren't, he murmured. Then he turned and left, leaving the door ajar. I sank back onto the bed, the reality pressing down like a heavy fog. My life, ordinary just hours ago, had dissolved into a nightmare of elegance and menace. Even now, I couldn't stop thinking about his eyes, calculating, unreadable, but not entirely cruel. And I couldn't stop wondering, if he believed me, why did he take me? The next day, or night, time had lost meaning. He returned, carrying a tray of food. I thought you'd be hungry, he said. I didn't move. Poisoned food isn't appetizing. If I wanted you dead, you'd be buried already. I stared at him. The calm, controlled menace in his voice did not hide the faint flicker in his eyes. Almost hesitation. He placed the tray near the bed. Pasta, bread, wine. Steam rose like thin smoke, and for the first time I considered eating. Eat, he said. I shook my head. I'm not your prisoner. You are, he said simply, voice soft but deadly. Until I find out who you really are. I wanted to ask him his name, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I muttered, Why me? He paused, his gaze locked on mine. Because you're here, and someone needs to pay for mistakes. I reached for the bread, hands shaking, when a small, folded note slipped from beneath the tray. Don't be afraid to eat. A shiver ran down my spine. He left without a word, leaving me alone with my hunger, my fear, and the first glimmer of something else. Curiosity. That night, Adrian returned with a file. He placed it on the table beside my bed, the soft thud of paper punctuating the silence. "This is you," he said. I froze. The photo depicted a woman with the same sharp jaw, the same brown hair, the same lean hands. But the eyes, they were colder, calculating, almost cruel. "Not me," I whispered. He leaned forward, voice calm but hard. "She met my contact 2 weeks ago. Sold us out, betrayed my family. I don't even know her," I said, voice shaking. He slid the photo closer, his dark eyes watching me intently. "You're telling me this isn't you?" I stared at her face, the uncanny resemblance gnawing at my stomach. I could almost convince myself, that this woman was me, living another life I didn't remember. "Maybe I am her," I muttered bitterly, "in another life." Adrian's gaze flickered. Something human, something almost tender. "You're not," he said, too quietly to believe. His hand brushed the edge of the photo, almost hesitating. I couldn't look away from those eyes. The more I studied them, the more I questioned my own memory, my own life. Had I really been here this whole time, or had someone replaced me in a cruel joke of fate? He closed the file with a soft click. The sound echoed in the room like judgment. "You could have walked out tonight," he murmured, voice low. "But you didn't, that tells me you're braver than most," I swallowed hard, unsure whether to feel relief or fear. As he left, I noticed a small slip of paper tucked under the photo, a note I hadn't seen before. Truth is rarely what it seems. The words lingered, pressing against my chest, heavier than chains. I curled into the bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind a maze of fear, confusion, and an impossible curiosity about the man who had kidnapped me. Time became a blurred river. Days and nights folded into one another. I could no longer remember the exact rhythm. Every sound outside my door, the soft scuff of shoes, the low murmur of male voices, set my nerves on edge. I observed Adrian when I could, glimpsed the way he moved through his mansion like a shadow, commanding without effort. He rarely spoke to anyone except Marco, his enforcer, who loomed in the background with his arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes never leaving me. I tried to memorize every detail. The angle of the chandeliers, the smell of old leather, the faint trace of smoke in the air. Every clue was a lifeline, every observation a possible key to survival. Sometimes, Adrian would appear with a book, setting it gently on my bed. "You'll go insane without something to occupy your mind," he said once. "You think I haven't already?" I muttered, and he allowed a ghost of a smile. At night, I could hear him pacing outside my door. The rhythm of his steps was methodical, deliberate, almost intimate. I hated the sound, and yet found myself listening, memorizing, craving some sign that he was human beneath the calculated menace. Marco rarely spoke, but his eyes followed me. Sometimes when Adrian left the room, Marco's gaze softened for a fleeting second, a hint of something beyond his loyalty. I learned the patterns. The way the guards moved, the timing of meals, the slight hesitation in Adrian's instructions, and I began to wonder if, beneath all the control, there was a man as trapped as I was. On the 7th day, Adrian invited me to dinner. The word felt strange. I was escorted down the long, candlelit hall, the echo of my footsteps louder than my thoughts. The dining room was long, regal. Candles flickered against walls lined with paintings that depicted violent beauty, hunting scenes, family portraits, landscapes that felt alive. Adrian sat at the head of the table, black shirt sleeves rolled, hands folded. "Sit," he commanded. 2 men with guns lingered behind me. The meal was fine, luxurious. Roast lamb, wine, bread still warm from the oven. We ate in silence for a few minutes, each bite punctuated by the ticking of a distant clock. Finally, I asked, "Why am I still here?" "Because I'm not convinced you're innocent," he said, eyes fixed on me like a predator assessing prey. "And if you were? Then I'd have to let you go," he replied, voice soft but dangerous. The words hung in the air like smoke. Punishment felt in the syllables. "Do you kill everyone who crosses you?" I asked. "Only the ones who lie," he said. "Then you should be terrified," I whispered. "I haven't lied once." He paused, gaze darkening. "You're brave. Or stupid. Both," I said, voice low. He leaned slightly closer, almost imperceptibly. "I can work with that," he murmured. A moment passed. The candles flickered. Shadows stretched. And in the quiet, a dangerous, fragile tension settled between us. Fear, attraction, curiosity all tangled together. That night, desperation overtook fear. I waited until Marco's shadow retreated to the hallway, then slid the bobby pin from my hair. The lock clicked. I froze. Nothing sounded. Slowly I crept into the hallway. The air smelled faintly of rain and polish. Hard hammering, I counted steps, memorized turns. Then voices, low, urgent, unmistakable. Adrian and Marco, arguing. "She's not the girl, Adrian," Marco said. "You're seeing ghosts." Adrian's growl vibrated through the hall. "You think I'd mistake her? After Nathan?" I paused. Nathan, his brother. The name cut deeper than any blade. A floorboard creaked. Adrian's voice snapped, sharp, deadly. "Wait," Marco barked. I ran, adrenaline surging, past wine racks and crates. A side door, locked. My chest heaved, a hand grabbed my wrist, cold, iron grip. Adrian's eyes burned into mine. "Where were you going?" he asked, voice low, lethal. "Home," I screamed. "You psychopath!" He said nothing, only turned and punched the wall. Splintering wood cracked in the dark. I crouched, shaking, unsure whether to run, fight, or cry. He left without another word. I curled on the floor, exhausted, soaked, terrified, and for the first time, I realized I was no longer just a mistake. I was part of his world. I woke to a silence so thick it felt alive. Adrian stood at the foot of the bed, shadowed by the dim light from the chandelier. His gaze fixed on me, unreadable. "You tried to escape," he said, voice quiet but loaded with menace. "Yes," I admitted, heart hammering. "Because you're reckless," he interrupted. "Because you think rules don't apply to you." He stepped closer and I tensed. His presence alone was a punishment. I flinched, expecting pain. Instead, he spoke softly. "I could end this right now," I swallowed hard. Every muscle screamed to plead, to beg, to run again, even though I knew it was futile. "You'd kill me?" I whispered. "Maybe," he said. Then, almost against his own volition, he hesitated. "But you intrigue me more alive than dead." He crouched slightly, a subtle gesture that felt almost protective. He handed me a glass of water. "Drink," I did, hands shaking. The warmth of the liquid was strangely grounding. "I don't understand you," I said. "I don't understand myself either," he admitted, voice low. "I know you're innocent. I don't know why I can't let go." The words struck me harder than any chain could. In the quiet, the tension shifted. Fear remained, yes, but it was tangled with something else. Curiosity, fascination, even the beginnings of trust. And for the first time, I saw Adrian not only as my captor but as a man wrestling with his own demons. A sudden power outage plunged the mansion into darkness. Candles flickered, casting long, dancing shadows across the walls. Adrian entered my room unannounced but calm. "We should talk," he said. I hesitated. Every instinct screamed no, but the flicker of vulnerability in his eyes pulled me closer. He sat across from me, knees just inches away. The silence stretched, then broke. "My brother, he died because of a spy," he said, voice trembling slightly. "I promised I'd find her. I'm not her," I said softly. "But you already know that." "I want to," he admitted. "But I can't let myself believe it." We talked, really talked for hours. Paths, regrets, fears. Adrian's voice carried the weight of someone who'd lived surrounded by loyalty and betrayal, who had never known honesty until now. "I used to think control was everything," he said. "Now I wonder if letting go might be more powerful." I shared my own fears, my life, my solitude. And in the fragile darkness, A connection formed. Tenuous, dangerous, undeniable. For the first time, we weren't captor and captive. We were two people, stripped of pretense, measuring each other against truth. I stumbled upon Adrian's private desk while searching for clues. Among papers and folders, I found the altered photo, the one he'd shown me. I examined it, my stomach churning. The face had been manipulated, subtle edits to make me resemble Riley. A betrayal hidden in plain sight. I realized then, my identity had been used as a pawn. Someone wanted Adrian misled, someone close enough to manipulate him. The proof changed everything. Fear mingled with relief. I wasn't Riley Trent. I was myself, trapped in a deadly misunderstanding. Marco confronted me later, voice low, tense. I didn't tell him, he admitted, about the photo, about the manipulation. I wanted to protect him. I looked at him astonished. His loyalty was a shield, but it also meant Adrian's obsession would continue unchecked. "You've been hiding everything," I said. "Yes," he whispered, but I couldn't let him destroy the wrong person. I realized Marco wasn't just an enforcer. He was a reluctant ally, a man caught between duty and conscience. Adrian entered my room that night. The air was thick with tension. "I know now," he said softly. "I know you're innocent, but I cannot let you go." I stared, breath shallow. Every word, every inflection carried desire, obsession, fear, and something dangerously like love. "I don't belong here," I whispered. "You do," he said, stepping closer. His hand brushed mine. A jolt of electricity surged. Without thinking, I leaned in. Our lips met. A collision of fear, longing, and raw emotion. The kiss was fierce, desperate, and for a moment everything outside that room disappeared. When we pulled back, he rested his forehead against mine. "I can't promise safety," he murmured. "But I can promise me." The line between captor and protector blurred. I realized the truth. Our fates were intertwined, messy, and inevitable. Shouts, flashing lights. Police stormed the mansion. The chandeliers shook from the commotion. Detective Rowan Hale barked orders. Guns flashed. Chaos erupted. Adrian grabbed my hand. "Stay close. Don't let go." I clung to him as explosions of noise and light tore through the hallways. Every instinct screamed to run. Through hidden passages, Adrian led me. The mansion's walls blurred past. Smoke, fire, rain mixed. "Almost there," he said, voice strained. We burst into the night. The city was a haze of sirens and water-slicked streets. "Go," he said. "Now," I hesitated. He pressed a hand to my cheek. "Live," I ran, heart pounding, never looking back. Marco cornered me later. "The real traitor," he said, "was in the inner circle. He orchestrated the photo, Nathan's death, the spy. It was all manipulated. Everything clicked. Adrian's obsession, his mistakes, the lies. And the photo?" I asked. "Altered," Marco said, "to protect him. He needed to believe, even when the truth was different." The pieces fell together, horrifying and illuminating. Adrian emerged as the police took him away. He caught my eye. "I let you go," he said softly, "because love is stronger than control." Rain smeared the glass of the police car, his reflection fading as blue lights flashed. My hand pressed against the window. He was gone. I was free, and the world, for the first time in days, felt like my own. But even as the city lights blurred through the rain, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was still watching. A message vibrated on my phone. No number, no name, just 3 words. "We're not finished." And somewhere in the shadows, I knew my story with Adrian, and the danger that surrounded him, was far from over.